Hi, so I am a curator and a writer, all those things that Jillian said. I'm a control freak too, so it's very hard not to be advancing my own slides and choosing which ones to not talk about and which ones to talk about. But I thought I would tell you about something that I have spent a fair bit of time thinking about recently, which is artists who use information in their work. And I curate work that is often media-based, made with new technologies, and not the kind of paintings and sculptures on the walls, though I love those too. And you'll see a lot of those in shows that I work on. But I'm particularly interested in the networked spaces of our lives and how artists intervene in network systems and ways in which art can explain that to us. And so the book that I've worked on really brings together a rethinking of the history of information-based art from the sort of 1960s to today, keeping in mind that information technologies haven't been around with us as long as maybe other art media have, but that artists have really intervened in those systems and really caused us to question them. And this isn't just in terms of thinking about video or the internet, but like the whole networked infrastructure. So I really love artworks where artists have disrupted the transmission of the signal, right? The transmission of the signal from its sender to its receiver. At what point did it get garbled? At what point is there extra noise? At what point does that noise become something interesting? So Information was an exhibition that took place at the Museum of Modern Art in 1970, curated by Nastin McShine. At the time, the director of the museum was a guy named John Hightower. He'd only just been appointed. The show included a lot of conceptual work documented in the form of images, photographs, and it included a work by Hans Hacke that was installed at the very front of the exhibition that was a question that people had the choice of voting on. And this cartoon will make sense when you see his work, because his work, he didn't reveal the question until the day the show opened. And the question had to do with whether or not you, the visitor to the museum, were comfortable re-electing Rockefeller. Rockefeller had been chairman of the board of MoMA. He's an art collector. He was running to be governor of New York State. He later, of course, became vice president after Nixon resigned under Ford. But it was actually Hacke's, now see, this is where I get all tangled up in art history. Hans Hacke didn't say what the question was. Rockefeller was very upset about it. Rockefeller's brother was chair of the board of MoMA at the time. John Hightower lasted in the job only 2 years. Artists have also been in residence in television studios, which I think is kind of interesting. And so I'm going to switch now, and I'm going to talk about what today is. It's election day in the United States. So the rest of the artworks are all artworks that have to do with the presidential election or with American politics in particular. Uber Morgan set up a website to sell votes by auction. They were investigated. There were numerous injunctions. They revealed the day after the election that, in fact, no money had traded hands. Michelle Gay had made a work in 2001 where she had taken George W. Bush's speech to the United Nations and ran it through her spam bot, where it just changed words, suggested new words. The text sort of disintegrates in front of your eyes. Angie Wallers made a brilliant work in 2002 where she laboriously by hand went through Amazon's recommendation feature to determine if you were buying Margaret Thatcher's biography, what kind of music might be represented to you. So opera, apparently. Turns out that conservatives get recommended the Beatles and liberals get recommended Bob Dylan. I don't know exactly what that means. But that was an artist book in an edition of 500. I love artist books, obviously. Obviously, art activism and information-based art overlap quite strongly, and so that's one of the things I'm particularly keen on, is the way in which art can intervene in our social spaces. This is a work by Joe Delap, who's here in the crowd tonight. If I remember correctly, he reenacted all the debates of Kerry versus Bush. Is that right? In 2004, the debate on international affairs was reenacted in Vietnam battlefield. Oh, this is the complicated one. This is a work by Ben Rubin. This is the source code of the voting machines that are used in the United States. Obviously, the source code is proprietary, which is why it's all blacked out and you can't read it. It's 50,000 lines of C++. The work is obviously about the fact that democracy and the structures that run it are privatized. This is Luc Dubois' Hindsight is Always 2020. It's a series of 41 eye charts, testing charts. They each are the State of the Union address from the president at the time. So they have the 66 most commonly used words in their speeches. So you can use these charts to test your vision against the vision of the president. This is a work that came out in 2008. It's a newspaper. It's a version of the New York Times. It's exactly like the New York Times, only it's set in the future. It was distributed about 80,000 copies across the United States a week after Obama was elected, but the date on the paper is the 4th of July, 2009, so it was like a 6-month mandate to improve the world. Rod Dickinson and Steve Rushton's Closed Circuit is like that kind of presidential briefing where the politician and the military advisor are standing next to each other. The scripts that these two people read are actually made up of quotes from speeches from everybody from Milosevic, Yasser Arafat. The credits for them appear on screens alongside. And this is what we're all going to be doing later tonight. This is Ellie Harrison's general election drinking game, which was performed live at the Star and Shadow Cinema. They drew straws to decide who would represent each party, and every time the constituents won, they had to take a shot of beer. Ellie had been teetotal since January, and so it descended into drunken shambles, which was pretty appropriate considering the outcome of that particular general election. So good luck tonight, and I hope that through this you've understood that artists have a great power to help us re-understand our media landscapes, and there's lots of that in Neon, so come see that too. Thanks very much.